talk about decentralization and then annihilation. Bitcoin, Litecoin, your coin, blockchain, baby. Mondays at 1600 hours Eastern, Studio A.
Deep understanding must arise during these times of unparalleled deceit. A view into the depths of society upon which this country has fallen, a storm brews upon the horizon. It's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society. But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts not seen since a dawn of time in ages bypast? But you can find true forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history.
General Holder, you've got to get us out of here now! I won't let you down. I won't let you down, son.
Revolution.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, welcome tonight to Sunday Night Live, going out live from London. And tonight, everybody, I've got a guest, Sarah Adams from America, coming back to share truth, hope, whatever. Welcome, Sarah. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on your show, Christine.
Oh, brilliant. That's okay. Welcome back. And I was trying to get Taj to join, and now I'm not knowing how to. It's got here. It's straight. Oh, there we are. Okay, let me see if I can bring him on now. 1 second. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, there we are. I'll just bring him on so he can join in. There he is. Hi, Taj. How are you? Oh, is he there? Hello? Oh, he's silent. Never mind. Sarah, oh, there he is. Whoops. Crash landing. How are you, Taj? Okay, don't worry. He's not coming through. So, Sarah, how are you getting on out there in America? You just moved, haven't you? And just kind of getting used to being back in California again.
Yeah, I love it here. It's really nice, and I'm near Topanga, so Topanga's a really awakened community, so it's great. I really love being near the beach. By the way, it's awesome.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Welcome to the show, Taj. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, brilliant. We were just talking about Topanga. I remember Topanga coming from Westwood, where I was living, along the beachfront, the Pacific Coast Highway, and Malibu Beach is further up, and then you got Topanga Canyon. So do you kind of live, do you take a right along that road, and there's a little community in there or a little village?
Well, we're in Calabasas, so it's right next to Topanga, so you can go up the mountain, and Topanga's right there.
Oh, it's nice. And is it like a little village or what?
Well, they're gated communities, which is great, and we're right in nature. So you kind of have like the mountains, then you have a gated community here, then you have more mountains, then another gated community. So they're spread out among the little mountains here.
Oh, that's nice. And is there a little, I know there's a little shopping center down by Malibu Beach with a Starbucks and restaurants. And is that where you go to shop, that little place?
Yeah, or in Topanga. So there's the Topanga City Center. It's quite small, but there's like the Seventh Ray, which is a beautiful, beautiful restaurant that has a little store with a lot of crystals in it and just different handmade things from artists, from local artists. And then there's some beautiful shops there. So I mostly go to the Topanga town of Topanga and shop there, or just go and sit in nature there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a really nice spot, isn't it?
It's quite beautiful. And it's really, really high frequency here. The good thing is I haven't noticed any chemtrails, which was something in Sedona. There was so many chemtrails, so that was pretty intense.
Oh, right. Yeah, we've got a lot here in London. It's crazy. It's horrible, actually.
Really?
Oh, yeah, we get sprayed like little vegetables here. I mean, it's really bad in the
I
mornings.
feel
The
I
sky
feel
is
like they're doing it
crisscrossed.
over the large cities a lot recently.
Yeah, it's depressing. So what I wanted to talk to you about tonight was the communication with ET. And interestingly, your group today was about the same thing. Sorry, aeroplanes going overhead. Was about the same thing, and you had the guests talking about communicating with ET. And I noticed in your healing groups, your multidimensionality groups, you do a lot of bringing in the ET to do the healing.
Yeah, so when I was a small child, I had a lot of experiences where I was taken to underground bases, and then the good ATs would come and take me back from them. So it was a really interesting childhood to experience that. And anytime I needed healing, anytime that I had any trauma, the ETs would come and they would work on me. I had one experience where they put me in a UFO and they put me in this sort of light bed or bed of light, and they worked on me. And then sometimes they would run this like almost like violet or blue light over me. And then they told me too, since I was a hybrid, my body was hybrid, that they were tuning up different things so I could stay in this body. So it was a very, very beautiful experience with ETs. And then whenever I had this trauma that I went through when Max died, I nearly died myself. The ETs came and worked on me. So they would gather in a circle and they would just channel golden light into me. So they've always helped me out through my life. And then when I started doing healing work with people, the ETs, they told me, they're like, we want to work with you and we want to help people heal. So then I was able to just bring them in via using this portal that I do, because I know how to open portals energetically. And that's when people started to either see them that I was working with, or they would tell me, hey, I had a vision of them, or I can feel them working on me, or they'd get telepathic images or messages. Like a client yesterday, she was just seeing a mantis being who appeared to her, and he was working on her. So they've really helped me out. And I'd say probably all of the healing work that I've done with people, or the majority amount of it, ETs have always come to help me out with them.
Yeah, because it's quite interesting, because I had that experience, and it's almost like, when you say, oh, I'm going to let them come through now, and you kind of have a feeling, or I had a feeling, that somebody was doing something, especially the clearing out the energy. It felt like something was plugging something into me and then sort of siphoning off all that dark fluid and stuff, which was a really interesting feeling, because I could feel it coming out of all my different bodies, that dark fluid. So they've got a way of working that we probably don't understand, or...
So for them, the body is a reflection or a mirror of the energy field. So when the body is, not functioning properly, that's because the energy field is it's dense because of trauma, either in this lifetime or past lifetimes, ancestral trauma, just toxins of energies, food toxins. Our planet's quite toxic right now, so they transmute that, and they've instructed me actually on how to transmute the pollution on the planet the same way. So they said when enough people wake up and become multidimensional again and connect to the ETs, then everybody can join together to transmute the dense energies that keep the frequency of this planet down. So that's one of their biggest messages throughout my life to me, is that they can step in and help, but they really, really also can't, how can I put this? Humanity has to make their own decision to wake up themselves, and they will get the help of the ETs, but they have to make that decision within themselves. And then once they connect to the ETs are more than willing to help. But alone, they're not going to heal the planet. They're waiting for humanity to wake up because there's some karmic universal laws that they abide by.
And when you said that you were a hybrid, I mean, when did you first find that out?
Oh, there was a couple of times. First of all, I remember living, on Mars, staying on Venus for a long time, traveling to different planets and dimensions. And I came in with quite full memory of that. But the really interesting thing is when I was a child, I was always taken into spaceships all the time. And I would see other ET hybrid children. And they said that that originally everyone had DNA from different specific species, interdimensional, multidimensional ET races that the ETs gave as gifts to help humanity on this planet connect up with them. And they said they were lighting up those codes in a lot of the children on this planet, because they said the planet was dying, so that these children, when they light up, they would be able to help wake up humanity and help wake up those around them, and also use their abilities to help to save the planet. So as a child, I was always with these hybrid children, and we would speak via images or via sending different colored energy to each other, and we would encode it with feelings and emotions. So when I was quite young, I didn't talk really, because I just was used to speaking like that, because I did so much with the ETs, and it was like my natural language. So language is kind of second, verbal language is kind of second to me. That's how I communicate mostly. And they were telling me that these hybrid children, the problem that they were facing was that the hybrid children and that had families, they take them into the ships, obviously, to work on them and just to help them so they could function properly, because they said the hybrid children were being overwhelmed with the energies of their families and parents. That was intense, and it was actually really hurting them, so they'd have to clear them, and that's why they take them to the ships and then they put them back down with their families. So I had a lot of those experiences, and then whenever, for a long time I didn't know my dad was alive, and when I found out my dad was alive, I went and visited my dad. I was actually with Max at the time, and I remember I went to my grandma's house. I was staying at my grandma's house with him, and that's when this really tall being that kind of looks like one of the beings that Lloyd Cannon, I don't know if you know Lloyd Cannon, he paints all these different ETs. Well, he paints these beings that they look like a universe. This being appeared to me, and he said, "Oh, I'm your father. Whenever your mom and dad was together, I actually was in his body, and that's how I helped you to come through." And then I remember too that the ETs told me when I was in my mother's womb that they had done a lot of things genetically to me, and they showed that to me. And like I said, as a kid, they were always taking me, so I have full memory of that.
That's interesting. And how, when you're doing the healing, do you call on a specific race, or is it different ones each time?
There's a whole council, and we're going to be working more with the mantis beings in the group and some other beings, but there's a whole council of beings. I wouldn't say it's the Galactic Federation. That's something different, but there's beings that look like mantises, beings that look like they're part B beings, ant beings. There's beings that are from the 22 dimension. There's just just this whole council. So when I work with people, specific the being that thinks that they can help the most will come through. So it really depends on that person. So let's say a person's nervous system is really just messed up and distorted. That's when the mantis beings will come through and they will start to work on the nervous system. So there's various ETs too that have specific knowledge of different parts of the human body and how they function. So the mantis beings know very well about they have a lot of knowledge about the nervous system, whereas there's also good gray ETs, and I don't think a lot of people know that because they focus on the negative gray ETs, but the good gray ETs know a lot about DNA. And they did say that when the human body was created, that a lot of different races gave different specific things, like specific races knew about how cells work and they had created cells. And so these different races gave different gifts to humanity, whether it's cells or the nervous system or specific organs to create the human body. And that's where they told me that what was called the Watchers in the Bible, because it says the Elohim or the Watchers, that they're the Elohim, the Watchers. And they said that basically, because the Bible does say that, humanity was created by the Elohim, or a group of creators, that it was all these beings together along with spirits and along with some of what I call the ancient ones that all created the physical realms. So they gave their different knowledge to create this realm and these bodies that we live in.
It's a lot of pain going on right now, in the physical world, isn't there? It's a lot of, men aren't being much like men, women aren't being much like women, and there's just so much chaos, isn't there, don't you think?
There is such a distortion. So that's what they show me. They say it's a distortion, and they show it to me, and it's an energetic distortion. So we have a lot of people who are angry, who are chaotic, who are lost, depressed, broken. And honestly, it all goes down to energy. They have a lot of chaotic, dense energies. And once those are cleared, they start to become calm. They go back to their hearts. They really start to become embodied, because when the physical body is unhappy, the soul starts to leave the physical body. And as the soul starts to leave the physical body, it ages, it gets sick, it gets sad, it gets suppressed. And that's because our physical world, it's really inundated with energies from the dark realms or the lower realms, where there's beings that lost their light, and those realms were created specifically for those beings. And those beings are allowed out of it as long as they follow universal, cosmic, divine, God source law, which is not to harm another. But we have a lot of gates and portals that have been opened, and specifically by a lot of dark magic on this planet, that has let these beings out that lost their light. And these beings are what you would call the archons or the demons or the Watiko or the jinn. There's a lot of names for these beings in different cultures. And it's the ET showed me how there's a war between them and these beings, and they're trying to shut portals and open portals to the higher dimensions, whereas a lot of our governments have been compromised by these lower forces. So they open portals, they allow for pollution, because pollution is the perfect environment for these beings to come through. It tracks them to our planet from their dimension. So there's really a spiritual war going on, and I think people need to wake up to that. But we can blame the government, we can blame dark forces, but in the end, it's up to us to make the physical choice to become healthier, to become aware of our energy field, to cleanse and clear it, to work on becoming happier and more positive. That choice is down to us in the end. And as long as we just walk around every single day not caring about our energy field, not caring about our choices, whether they're good to ourselves or others, as long as we don't care about our bodies, we are going to be, living lives that are pretty awful. And that's what's happened to a lot of people on this planet.
Yeah, for sure. The behavior is really down. I noticed in one of the sessions you were you said that you were gonna let them visit each one of us. And what's that distortion? And I actually saw one appearing in my mind, and I think you said it was the golden mantis, but he looked like a man. He was a man with bright green eyes and yellow hair, and he just told me different things about myself. He said I was from Aldebaran, which kind of rings with the memories I've got of past life as a Nazi. And why did he appear as a man?
So sometimes they appear as men. There are specific race that looks like men. There's also specific races that look like just men with white hair that are no older than 30. They come through the sun portal. So there's different factions, and when I opened that gate, it was for these different factions to come through to whoever, said they were willing to let them come through. So that specific being came in for you specifically because there was something that, it needed to show you and it needed to connect with you on. So I feel that, people who are more Arcturian, the Arcturians come through a lot to them. People who have more Pleiadian connections, the Pleiadians come through. So there are these different races. And like I said, some people too that are in human bodies, the body is, we have to not, I think we have this view that everyone's just human, but that's not true. The body is a human body, but there's a lot of beings on this planet in these human bodies that aren't human. And a lot of them got caught in the reincarnation cycle and forgot who they are. So some of these beings coming through too, it's their family, these people, these ETs that got caught in this reincarnation cycle. They're coming through to their family members, their kin that got caught down here, so they're trying to reawaken them, and their kin came down here actually, to experience the human life. Whenever the planet is really, really just awakened, it's a beautiful experience. And some of them came down here also just to help awaken the planet and got caught and forgot who they are. So I've noticed that with a lot of people recently. They're like, oh, I realize I'm not from this planet. I'm from some other dimension or some other planet. That's where I came from originally. And their ET family is waking them up to that.
Oh, I see. So do you think the man with green eyes might have been from Aldebaran?
Yes. So, and also I always tell people when these beings come through, and, usually a lot of times it's because, one, you are a starseed. Anyone, I think, who is in the awakened community, somewhere deep down, they know they're different and they're searching for those answers, and they might not be fully awakened to who they are because they forgot who they are. But I would say a lot of people in this movement are in it because they're trying to wake up to who they are who they were before they forgot that. So they are starseeds, and they're slowly starting to wake up to that.
Oh, I see. So that, could I contact that one again by myself, or would I need?
Yes, you could contact that one, and I'm going to teach more of that as our group continues, which I really enjoy teaching it. It's my passion, because I feel like, if we had our world leaders connected to ETs, if we had our spiritual leaders connected to ETs and interdimensional beings, the world would be such a different place, because they would help transmute their dense energies. They would give them wise advice and knowledge on, how to be better, how to heal the planet, how to heal themselves. So I feel that in the future, this will happen at some point as more people on the planet wake up. But yeah, everyone can connect to ETs. It doesn't matter if you were born on this planet from Gaia, so you're a soul from Gaia, or you were born, on Mars and you reincarnated here, or you come from another dimension. And there's a lot of beings, they all interact. The fairies, there's the Sasquatch. I've seen huge councils of them interact to try to take care of different issues with the planet. A lot of them really care that there's no nuclear war on this planet. That's something that they're definitely doing to work they're doing to make sure there's no nuclear war on this planet. They also really want to see the evolution of humanity because humanity has so many gifts. So we have, quote, junk DNA, and DNA is lit up when we have energy. That junk DNA only turned off because we don't have enough energy flowing through us. If we had enough energy flowing through us, we wouldn't have junk DNA. It'd be completely lit up. So would our entire brain. So it's like we're functioning at 20% of what we should be functioning at. And it's why people are walking zombies and robots in society. And as we start to really embrace that we're more than this physical body and that we're energy, which is God's source, and we start to cleanse and clear our energy and connect to these other beings, there's going to be a shift of consciousness on this planet.
That would be good. So was he, do you think that, sorry to go on about him, but do you think he was a Pleiadian or something else?
I would think there's also hybrids of different races too, and I don't think many people address that in this field. So there are Pleiadian, Arcturian, gray hybrids too. So there's a lot of races that are, or beings that are what I call mixed hybrids. So he sounds more like a hybrid because he sounds like he's Pleiadian possibly and something else just from the description.
Oh, I see. And Aldebaran, what is significant about that?
That's almost like, I don't know if you've ever watched Superman. He comes from this planet, and I forget the name of it, but it's similar to that. It's like they were fully awakened on that planet, and whenever I think of Superman, I think of that. It's really interesting. I feel like that's a good depiction of it. But there is a movie called The Green Lantern, which is really on point about the different races and how they're trying to fight off this demonic force. And they have to use love, or the heart, which is the highest frequency, to fight off this dark force. And it shows how all the different ETs are coming together just to fight off that force, which is quite, to me, I cry about it sometimes because I could just feel how much humanity is loved by these other beings and how they really, really are there for us. And we just think we're all alone, and we think that, there's no hope when we have so many allies, that as soon as we decide to spiritually mature and take control of our energy field rather than letting it be full of dense, lower frequencies, when we spiritually mature, then we can connect to these other beings. Because if we have a dense energy field, we can't connect ourselves to others on this planet, much less higher beings.
And what about the Nazis when they were interacting? What was that, the Pleiadians that they were interacting with, the Nazis?
They were trying to steal technology, from what I understand. I also was shown by the ETs that they made a lot of pacts with the underworld, so that whenever they killed, masses of people, they were sacrificing them to the demonic, archonic consciousness to open portals to the underworld. So they were definitely after technology to steal it from the Pleiadians, and they were definitely after technology, from what I was told, from some other races. But their main contract and pact was with the underworld, of which they were opening portals to. So they were really into trying to create soldiers too that were completely just demonic in a way. That's what their super soldier program was about.
And of course, they haven't really gone away. I mean, it's like we're under Nazi control now. It's the same type of, it's the same type of system, isn't it?
Well, it is that archonic lower consciousness system that has tried to get control of our world for thousands of years, but we have good beings, battling it back to try to push it off, while humanity, like a child, starts to wake up to its divinity and its power, because humanity is very powerful. We all have abilities and superpowers once we light up. So this, I feel like with the whole Hitler, he completely embraced the underworld, and he was trying to use it for power, and of course it used him for power, and it used him to get soul energy, because these dark beings that lost their soul light, they will feed off the soul energy, and that's their food. So he had completely embraced that, and I feel like there are a lot of remnants of that in society today, with our systems of suppression that come from the underworld, that come from the archonic falling beings, and it's really, really like infected our world like a plague, almost like a disease. And we see that in our different governments across this planet, and that's why our governments are so they have no empathy for the millions of people that, you know, are relying on them and hoping for them to give them better lives. They have no love, empathy, or compassion for the billions of people on this planet. So that's why. It's because they're completely infected with this archonic fallen being energy consciousness.
Yeah, it's pretty bad out there right now. I think it's pretty bad. Taj, sorry, I'm hogging it. Do you want to come in and ask Sarah some questions? I feel.
I was just listening to you guys, but yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Sarah says, but a lot of things take you down like rabbit holes. You know, people spend like months looking into things, and you know, they go down this rabbit hole, and they can be there for like, you know, God knows how long, researching what aliens, UFOs, and all kinds of things. And the one thing I wanted to like ask Sarah is like, if you can give someone one piece of advice as to the best way to navigate the spiritual community, because people spend a lot of when I say they waste a lot of time looking into this and looking into that when it's not really that important. How would you say people could focus on what's important?
I think that's a big one. We've talked about this before. I feel like people get caught up in trying to prove if some UFO picture is real or fake, and then they they're hoping the government does disclosure. First of all, the governments are all compromised, so don't expect your government to tell you the truth about anything. And I really wish we had good governments. I really, really have so much empathy and compassion for the millions of people suffering on this planet, because our governments are just horrible and compromised by dark forces. So don't expect the governments, to disclose the truth. And I feel like so many people get caught up for like months, years, forget hours. They get caught up in a big part of their lives just, oh, is this UFO picture real or not? When that's not important at all. What's important is, and if you want contact, and what's the most important is you actually doing simple steps to cleanse and clear your energy, to be healthier, to bring up your frequency. If you focus on that and not even care about contacting ETs or light beings, eventually when your frequency gets high enough, that's the contact's going to happen. You're going to make contact. And not only that, you're going to be happy and healthy. And I think that's the most important for people, not to get caught up in reading a million books or following a million teachers or trying to prove whether or not this picture of this UFO is real or not. And I see that on UFO Twitter so much. It's insane. Like, people will spend hours like trying to decipher if whether a picture is real or not. And I'm like, wow, this person's energy is so low. And then they're like, oh, hey, we want to contact ETs. Well, if you spent, 3 days, 4 days, a week, just clearing your energy, becoming healthier, sitting in nature, really working on yourself, you're going to have contact happen. So I feel like just doing self-work is the most important above all. Forget everything else, just do self-work. Cleanse your energy field, learn how to do, sacred practices of visualizing water washing over it and cleansing it, bring in the cosmic divine light. That's really, really going to shift your life and change your life.
Do you think that a lot of people, they do this, they go down these rabbit holes because they're almost in a way compromised by these beings that you were talking about earlier, like archons and these entities, and they almost like take over their mind in a way and say, you need to be looking at this or you need to be looking at that. No, you don't need to focus on your spiritual work. That's not important right now. Well, there's all kinds of, aspects in the spiritual community that distracts you, basically, is what I'm saying in a lot of ways.
And that's really, really true, because people often, their energy field is dense. When your energy field is dense, then you're at a frequency of where these beings can possess you or link into you, and they're gonna mess with you so that your mind is everywhere else. You're so focused on everything else except doing the sacred spiritual work. So yeah, I do feel that there's a lot of those people who are compromised and they don't even know it, sadly. And then they wonder why their lives are really, really bad. And they have this whole, they think that they're going to be saved by the aliens, when honestly, they're looking for proof of this, and they think that there's going to be all these UFOs that are in the sky that come down and save them. Some people have these different views and theories about it, when honestly they are being deterred from the most important work, which is sacred self-work. And once they do that, they would have the contact, and those beings would help protect them against the negative forces once they connect with them and do that sacred work from the negative forces that are on this planet, that are plaguing this planet right now.
I mean, just from like my personal point of view, I sort of got into the whole spiritual thing through mostly like conspiracy stuff, and I started looking into, all kinds of conspiracies like 9/11, Sandy Hook, and the Kennedy assassination, all kinds of moon landings. But I found that, once I got down a certain rabbit hole, you just keep hearing the same things over and over again, and you can spend forever looking at, this or that or whatever. And then after a while, after a few years, I think it's almost like when you first wake up, you want to know everything, and it's just impossible. You can't know everything. You can't know the truth about everything. And people just have this, almost like when they wake up, they have this desire to know everything. And it's almost like you need to more, once you've understood that, this story, that conspiracy, they're out there, but maybe you should be focusing more on yourself rather than what's going on out there in the conspiracy world, I guess.
And I have a lot of friends who are conspiracy theorists, but I don't associate being a conspiracy theorist or as being spiritual at all. In fact, I feel like that, and I have a lot of respect for them, and they have, they've really brought a lot of info out there that's legit and put it out there to the masses, which I'm very thankful for. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for that. But I feel the whole thing with the conspiracy community is that, and I know a lot of stuff that has happened to me and my family, so I know there's a lot of real conspiracies out there that are legit. But you've got to not let that deter you from doing self-work and from doing spiritual work, which is the most important. I always tell people, I'm like, what's the use of knowing there's an underground base over there? Like, that's not going to help you feel better.
Yeah,
you're depressed,
it is
you're sad, you're sick. It's not going to help you.
People think they're awake because they know, this is going on in underground bases or that's going on. They think
that
they're
doesn't make
awake.
you awake, though. No,
Yeah, I
that
know.
doesn't make you awake. What makes you truly awakened is when you reach a higher frequency. And then it's really interesting because people search for all these truths about ETs, about, different realms, dimensions. But when you get to this level of frequency, you don't need to search online, because hey, you're going to lucid dream, you're going to astral project, you're going to be speaking to different ETs, you're going to know the secrets of the cosmos, you're going to know the secrets of the divine. So when you're in that frequency, you tap into all that stuff, which is way more, it's way more fulfilling, because you're actually experiencing it than sitting online for hours and looking up different conspiracies.
Yeah, I think people do waste a lot of time doing that. And I think
well, it's almost like a psyop. I feel like there's different psyops. So once people wake up, they fall into these communities, and these communities are compromised by a lot of dark beings. And I can tell you that just from seeing a lot of things that happen behind the scenes of abuse, and a lot of darkness that happens behind the scenes that I haven't publicly spoken about. but it's clear that these communities are compromised, which, for me, I'm very compassionate towards people, and I want them to heal. I want them to be happy and healthy and just be in a frequency of love, because that's what humanity needs to be okay, because they're like lost children. So it's really interesting how I've seen throughout the years how a lot of the communities, whether it's the quotes, even the spiritual community, the awakened community, there's all these different branches, the conspiracy community, the UFO community, they're all compromised by people who are definitely, so caught up in looking at 3D stuff, like you said, just going down these different rabbit holes, and they're not taking care of their energy field at all, and they're in such a low frequency that they're often possessed by lower beings, and that's something that I've noticed.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of them just don't know any better, I guess. Especially people who...
They don't know better, because the thing is a lot of divine knowledge of how the physical body works, which it's divine technology, as I was just talking about, how, different beings gave different parts, different knowledge on how to create the physical realms and the human body that we're in. All that knowledge has been lost for thousands of years. So when a soul comes into a body, a human body, it's like giving a Maserati to a little 5-year-old. It's like giving this high-tech luxury car to this like 5-year-old. He's not going to know how to drive it or how to use it. So they have these bodies and they don't know how to use them. And that's probably one of the biggest problems I see on this planet, is people don't know that, whenever they go through trauma, whenever they go through suffering, whenever they go through a breakup, whenever somebody that they love dies, that energy, that shock of dense energy, it's held in their system, in their organs, in their cells, in their aura, in their chakra system. They don't know how to go in and actually connect to their system and clear it, and they're not connecting to their physical body. So this is a big problem, and this is why we have so many people suffering on this planet. They just don't know. It's not that they're evil. Of course, then evil's kind of exploiting that. These lower falling beings are exploiting that, because they're like, oh, hey, we can just use, control, and manipulate and feed off of humanity. But in the end, it's these people, they're not evil, they just don't know. So they're lost. And that's why I would see humanity as just beautiful children that are kind of lost in a dark forest, and they don't know their way out. And that's where these beings, whether it's the ETs, the angels, they're set in to help them out of that. And I feel that's why we have so many people waking up right now. There's going to be more people on this planet waking up, because these light beings are really putting an effort into trying to cleanse and clear the planet of dense energies, while humanity wakes up and steps into their own divine power.
Yeah, I mean, that's very familiar to what we were doing in the session earlier. And I think he was talking about consciousness traps, where you're like, you might be following someone who's a good person, has a good heart, but they're sort of compromised with the information that they're giving out, because the information they're giving out is incorrect, even though you might feel that, you're following someone who is a good person, has a good heart, and they're knowledgeable, but they've fallen into a trap. They've fallen into this trap where, again, like we were talking about rabbit holes, they've gone down this rabbit hole and they believe it, and then they tell everyone the same story, which is not true. And you also have the people who are just evil, and they will instigate that story as well. So how do you sort of navigate that sort of minefield, I guess?
And that's why when I teach people, I tell them, okay, sure, I have my experiences. Those are unique to myself. Once you learn how your system functions, you can, what I call go online, since everyone on this planet is mostly offline. Once you go online, you're going to have your own unique personal experiences, divine experiences that are different from everyone else, and that's your own life path. So when I work with people, I don't tell them you're this, or that. People will come to me, and they'll tell me, oh yeah, please tell me this, and I'll tell them, nope, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to guide you through how your system works. When your system lights up, you're going to get that message through your system yourself. That's how I work with people. And I think that's a big problem in our field of work, is that people are following others. And I don't even want people to, quote, follow me, as in my life path is my unique divine life path. And sure, I'm here to tell you how your system goes online. I do it myself. But your information that comes through whenever you go online is your own unique information. It's for you, and mine is for myself. And that's why, like, I experience things all the time. Like a day ago, I was literally hanging out with the Neptunian ETs. They look like mer people, and we were just hanging out in this sort of paradise. It had a lot of light, and there was beautiful life everywhere, like life that I haven't seen on this physical planet. I was in another dimension. That's my own unique experience. So I keep a lot of the stuff that I experience to myself, and I feel like people are so wanting to be connected because they feel so lonely, so lost, that they will want to connect up through those of us who have these experiences. And they'll just, really eat up all of the stuff we're putting out there. And my whole message for me to get out there was for people to learn how to light themselves up and have their own unique experiences, rather than having them, just relying on me for me to give them information about, hey, the Galactic Council or 22D. That's why I really like teaching people just to connect up themselves.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I think we were talking about things like energy vampires. They go from one healer to another healer to another healer because they get that high, from working with that healer, and then they feel great for a few days, and then they're back to where they were because they're not working on themselves to get that high. They're getting it from
right. And
so maybe they should join Sarah's group, because that's pretty good for clearing out the energy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, my specific way of healing it's not like giving fish to people that are hungry. It's teaching them how to fish, which is really important, so that they can go off and they can do these things, these exercises on their own, and have their own unique experiences and are empowered. I also think that a lot of spiritual healers, which is a problem that I faced for a while, is they'll send you good energy, they'll clear you, but they won't teach you how to do it yourself. And so you're relying on them constantly, and you're relying on them to give you messages from your guides or the angels around you, when you should learn how to do those things yourself. That's so important.
Is that just because they want the money from you to come back?
I mean, it can be, yeah. I mean, it can be very, I mean, I think for a lot of spiritual healers, yeah, they need to start teaching people how to do these things themselves, and not having people addicted to them or relying on them. I think that's really important, because if we don't do that, we gather a lot of negative karma.
Right.
That's interesting. So, Taj, where can the people get hold of Sarah's group?
You can just go to Sarah's website, sarahradams.com. It's on the front page there, how to become multidimensional. Sarah's multidimensional community. As you know, Christine, you're in the group, so you could probably...
You can get access to the old videos, which is... Well, I can't, because for some reason my email has gone wrong. But that's really good to be able to listen to all the old sessions, including the ones where you can encounter the ET, etc.
Yeah, so the sessions are like once a week with Sarah, or, if it's not Sarah, it's someone that Sarah has, put into the group, because they have specific information about, a certain aspect to teach you. And they're every week. They're recorded. You can look back and watch the session, over and over again as many times as you want. And you can ask Sarah questions.
The healing still works.
Yes, I mean,
yes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Sarah wants to talk about that.
Well, I encode, when I do the sessions too, I encode a lot of higher frequencies. So it's like my interviews I did with Gaia. I still get a lot of messages of where, like, people are watching them now, and I've done them years ago, and they're like, oh wow, we feel the energy, we lit up. It's because when I the energies that I cultivate within myself, I encode them in my interviews. So I always wanted to do this. This was like my passion was this. I feel like we have a lot of spiritual leaders out there who speak, but there's not the energy behind it. And I really feel when we speak that energy needs to come through. The higher energies needs to come through, and we're the portal for that, and that needs to go through into those listening to us. So I always do that when I work doing these interviews and videos.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what the group is about. It's about, learning to do all these things yourself.
Yeah, it's a really good group. It's really good. It's very beneficial. I look forward to it on Sundays.
Oh,
and I don't look forward to much.
I was gonna say you sound amazing. Like you sound really well, and I'm so thankful that you're doing well. I've been watching that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I definitely feel better. I used to wake up and crash straight into fear, depression, but since I had the cleansing out that you did, I wake up now and feel crystal clear, and it's gone.
Mm-hmm. And as you do more and more of this work, you'll just notice that you just return to being like a happy, imaginative little child. And that's what's really important. It says in the Bible, to enter the kingdom of heaven, we must be as children. So we have to really clear all the trauma, all of the fear, all of the anger. And then one day we wake up and we're just happy and well. And then that's when our true connection to ourselves happens, and that's when we go online. But we got to keep doing that work until we get there.
Yeah, the week before last was really good, where you took everyone down to the underworld and you were doing the shadow work, and I saw a lot of me when I was 5. I saw my adoptive father. He was sexually abusive, and I saw him. I think you did a bit where they were cleansing, the ET were cleansing those around us in the younger, in that shadow realm anyway. And I saw my father without the trauma. He just looked completely different. It was really interesting, like completely different person.
That's another thing. We're going to do some work on Earthbound souls soon too, because a lot of our ancestors are on this planet. They died, and they died, with a lifetime of trauma, or they died in wars or suppression, and so they don't have light, the higher light frequencies to ascend, so they're wandering around. That's why we have so many hauntings on this planet. They're just wandering around, and then they suck energy from the living, from us. So we have to help them cleanse and clear. We have to channel the divine light to them and open a portal for them so that they can ascend into the higher realms. So I do a lot of work on that with Earthbound souls. It's like, I feel like I'm the ghost whisperer. My aunt told me to watch the ghost whisperer, and I really, really feel a connection to her because I do a lot of that work behind the scenes. And the character in that series, which is really interesting, but it's really, really intense just watching the work that I do in a show. But yeah, it's all about Earthbound spirits, and I had been doing that work for years of helping Earthbound spirits to ascend into the light that were lost. And in ancient times, we would gather cosmic light energy and send it to those who had just passed so they could use that light energy to move on into the higher realms, but that's not happening anymore. So we just have millions of people that have died, and their ghosts have no light, and they're lost, wandering around. And they're hungry. I call them hungry spirits, because anybody who hasn't had love, who hasn't had connection and support and kindness in this life, they become hungry. Then they die, and they carry that with them until that hole is filled up via us just bringing in that kindness and that love and that light to them.
And what about opening a portal? Do you just imagine like a circle opening, or is there more to it?
So first I go into 22D. So I tell my system to go up into the 22nd dimension. And when it's in 22D, you start to tingle, you start to feel that elation, kind of bliss, euphoric energy. And then I go ahead and I connect to the spirits, and then I ask the angels to come in, and I open a portal, and I visualize opening it via energy into the heavenly realms. And that's how I do it.
Oh, I see. And do you imagine the portal coming down to Earth, or do you just keep it up there?
I keep it up there so it's kind of like an opening. Then I guide them. First, I cleanse and clear them, and sometimes I'll cry, and because I transmute their pain, their karma for them, and then I, channel the beautiful light energies into them, and then guide them through the portal.
Oh, interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Tasha, do you want to finish off? I think the music is at any moment now. I can sense it.
No, I was just thinking about the Sandman, which we were watching.
Oh, the Sandman. Have you seen the Sandman, Sarah?
I haven't yet. I started the first episode, but I've been really busy doing a lot of meditation, so I haven't completely watched it. I have watched Sleepy Hollow, this series actually, which is so on point. It's kind of a bit dark, so on point about how there's the lower forces trying to come up, the four horsemen. It even shows like a plague in there that was happening. It was spiritual, and I thought, oh, that's really on point with the whole kind of scare we've had in society recently with the virus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Sarah quickly, like in the Sandman, there's a lot of stuff about dreams, obviously. But how do dreams fit into spirituality? Can you briefly?
So I lucid dream. So a lot of times entities or even higher beings come to people in their dreams, and we connect to each other. At night, our souls go out of our bodies and we connect via the dream realms. Our souls do. So I was shown that we needed to cleanse and clear out the dream realms, and that would affect physical reality. So that's really interesting you bring that out. But I've known this for years. I go and clean out the dream realms, which are connected to the realms, all the realms, the dimensions. And then I noticed that will affect here. So let's say I'm dealing with a negative entity. I can go into a person's dream and I'll see the negative entity in their dream, and I can clear out that negative entity via their dream, which I've done a lot of times.
That's like dream walking. That's in the Sandman as well. In the Sandman.
Yeah.
Where they can dream walk, they can go into other people's dreams. Yeah.
It's like the other day when you text messaged me about somebody or something in the middle of the night. I dreamed about it, and then I woke up and I was like, hey, I had this dream, and this is what this person's intent was. This is what they're doing. This is what they're feeling. So, whenever you sent me that message, you were thinking about it, which is energy. Thought is energy. So even though I was asleep, I tapped into that in my dream realm and just looked at it and saw the truth of it.
Right.
Well, thanks you guys for coming on. My co-host Tajinder Gill, thank you. And Sarah, thank you for being a brilliant guest, and hope to see you back soon.
Thank you. Definitely.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're a star. Thanks. Thank you for listening, everybody, and sorry we ended up going over the music at the end. Come back next week. Take care.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Still out there? You going back in? There's still men out there. God damn. When I go home, people ask me, hey, Hoot, why do you do it, man? Why? Just some kind of war junkie? I won't say a goddamn word. Why? They won't understand. They won't understand why we do it. They won't understand it's about the men next to you. And that's it. That's all it is.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, #1 listener-supported radio, the printing press for freedom at a time when freedom is needed the most.
I am Bill Johnson. Some consider my efforts to be an underground law school. I am not an attorney, and I do not give legal advice. I teach. That's lawful and legal. Consider yourself served. You are to appear Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, Studio A. My forte? Foreclosure and contract law. Grab your legal pad and pen. Learn a broad spectrum of law spanning administrative, criminal,